How's it going, folks? Been a long time since I recorded a video. So I went on vacation to South Carolina, which was a nightmare. Strongly do not recommend flying. Being in South Carolina was fantastic, but my flying experience was terrible. And then I got COVID and it was super bad. So basically went like 2 weeks where I couldn't record a draft video because I couldn't talk that long without like coughing shit up and whatnot. I didn't think anybody would really want to watch videos of me coughing my brains out, so I did not record for a while, unfortunately. So getting back at it today with the Best Ball Mania 3. One of my Best Ball Mania 3s actually got canceled, so my money was refunded because there was some collusion or something in that tournament. So recording another one here to refill in draft number 40 for me. I'll be taking Cooper Kupp or Justin Jefferson with my pick. Pretty easy here at 4. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the different roster constructions and things of that nature, and some long discussions I had with some of my friends that play poker about GTO versus exploitative strategies and how it might carry over into the realm of best ball. So we'll get into that some now. So first of all, I want to talk about the different roster constructions. So the spike week tools and whatnot basically discuss like 4 different roster constructions: zero RB, hero RB, dual RB, and robust RB, which I think is a horrendous word to actually use for that. I think they either need 5 categories or to relabel the final one. So the reason why that is so you got your zero RB, which to me, the problem with using these terms is like people just completely have different ideas and different definitions for what they mean. So that's like the danger of using all these terms when we're describing the roster constructions. So like to me, a zero RB build means that like your first running back is somebody after RB 26, which is Miles Sanders, which is what, a 7th round ADP still. I guess Tony Pollard still sneaks in there, but Tony Pollard's at least starting the season as a backup, so I would definitely consider you starting zero RB if Tony Pollard is your top running back. So to me, true zero RB means you didn't draft a single person that was Miles Sanders or higher, which I don't really hardly have any builds like that this year, and that a later part of the video I'll get into more of that discussion. Still have to drink water with this last remnants of COVID still around. But so yeah, for me, zero RB is you didn't take anybody Miles Sanders or better at running back, and then you're mostly trying to fill in with backup running backs or guys like Ronald Jones or Sony Michel that have some shot of just like taking over backfield, stuff like that, and that's like how you're going to win at running back. And it's a really good strategy. It's particularly good for actually winning a tournament of this size, because if you get your team through to the playoffs, that means that your team, your zero RB team, already, obviously a lot of stuff broke right for you. Like some of your backups, their starters got hurt, or your Rojo's hit, your Sony Michel types hit. So that means the rest of your team, other than running back, is like extremely strong. So you can definitely win this type of tournament with the zero RB strategy, and it's one of the stronger strategies. If you can get a team through to the playoffs, it'll be one of the stronger teams in the playoffs. Your advance rate will be lower generally, and I think especially this year for some reasons we're going to get into a little bit later. I think this year it's going to be like exceptionally difficult to get those teams through, because kind of a lot has changed in the best ball landscape in a year, even though I don't think people realize how much things have changed in 1 year. So I'm going to keep my eye on my pick, then we'll talk about the roster types a little bit more, roster construction types. So this is going to be easy pick for me. I'm just taking whoever's there out of Barkley or Debo. I guess I could consider Mark Andrews too. I could even consider T. Higgins. T. Higgins is a guy I'm trying to get more ownership on. I might actually take. I think Debo's ceiling is just too much higher than T Higgins, maybe. Hmm. I'm gonna take Saquon here. Pretty happy with that pick. If Saquon would have been gone, I would have taken Debo or Mark Andrews. Starting to get like kind of too much Debo, so I might have taken Mark Andrews there. But I'm also trying to get more Lamar, so in that respect, it's nice to take Mark Andrews because it sets you up for Lamar stacks. But I think Saquon, his ceiling is definitely like a first round player, pretty easily. So I'm really happy with Saquon, Justin Jefferson start. So getting back to the different types of roster constructions, obviously we will not be picking zero RB with this team because we've already taken Saquon, which means we're at minimum at a hero RB team. So to me, a hero RB team is like one running back from Miles Sanders, Antonio Gibson level all the way up to the top. Only drafting one person in that range at running back. That to me is hero RB. And hero RB is actually like very popular this year and has not been very popular at all in previous years. Kind of hoping Mike Williams does not get taken with this pick because that's who I'd like to take. I like him quite a bit more than Keenan Allen just because he has that more like week winning ceiling where he can just smash and take over a week for you, win it by himself. So yeah, for me, hero RB, again, it's basically like one RB from Miles Sanders all the way up to Jonathan Taylor. And then it's so zero RB and hero RB, like basically are kind of like very similar strategies, cousins, if you will, because they both rely on you hitting a ton of like the backup guys or your Rojo types or your Sony Michelle types that have a shot to take over backfields. But hero RB has kind of a distinct advantage over zero RB. And when I talked to my like poker friends and broke down the strategies to them, they were saying how zero RB really seemed like the exploitative strategy, which seemed to really make sense to me. So it was exploitative because it was taking advantage of the people who were drafting too many running backs too early, right? And zero RB drafters were able to get often like 3 of the top 10 wide receivers, 3 of the top 12 wide receivers, and then like mix in enough pass catching running backs / guys that could win jobs that went later to kind of like, take over in the late game and the playoffs for these type of contests. And that was like the major strength of zero RB and why it was such a good exploitative strategy. The problem with it today, especially this year, is that hero RB is so much more popular. And hero RB is basically like the counter strategy to zero RB. So like I would say that hero RB, dual RB, and hyperfragile RB are all basically like GTO strategies, game theory optimal, whereas zero RB was an exploitative strategy, and it's still good because it still has the playoff uh, weeks where, like I said, if you get your zero RB team through, it means your team was amazing and a lot of things broke right, so you have a really good chance to win. The problem is now that so many people are also drafting hero RB, is like they basically have that same advantage, except that they get the shot that their hero actually smashes too. Because like just say like a Saquon Barkley, like his pure ceiling is going to be just higher than any of those backup running backs, obviously, right? Because like if not, they wouldn't be backup running backs. So like if they're one hero RB in hero RB build like smashes its ceiling, it's very hard for a zero RB build to beat a hero RB build that has their hero obviously healthy and smashing. And the fact that this counter strategy is now so popular, I think, is going to hurt zero RB, especially in the playoff weeks where they had their biggest advantage. It's kind of like taking away some of that huge advantage that they had. And then, dual RB is basically like, for me, 2 RBs from Miles Sanders above. And then hyper fragile is 3 RBs from Miles Sanders or above. And I'll talk a little bit about how many running backs I think should be drafted in each strategy, because it definitely varies. That sucks. I was hoping we would get Justin Herbert, but no such luck. He's extremely difficult to get in these drafts. I'm going to take probably Waddle or Deontay Johnson. It's a tier break for me after those two. So not too much of a choice there. I don't mind Waller or Kittle, but I'd rather just wait and see if one comes back to me. If not, that's fine. If Akers comes back to me, I'll consider going with a dual RB build. So to me, a 0 RB build, pardon me, still a little bit dealing with this COVID shit, but a lot better than I was. So to me, a 0 RB build should have 6 or 7 running backs on it in an 18-round draft. A hero RB build should mostly have 5 to 6, with more of a lean towards 6 running backs on it. A dual RB build is pretty much always 5 for me, 5 running backs. I want my 2 good ones, my 2 like beasts, and then like 3 other guys. And then for hyper fragile, that's if I'm taking like 3 guys, from Miles Sanders or above. I only take 4 running backs in that one. And I know a lot of people do hyper fragile with 3 running backs. If you've watched one of my videos, I've definitely explained that I don't care for that at all. Wow, both these guys have tight ends. Wow. I wonder if they'll both go dual tight end. I really hate bully tight end. I think it's quite awful. This poor guy doesn't even have a wide receiver. This sucks for this poor guy. So you really can't do this. I'm not just saying that because I wanted to get one of those 2 tight ends. It's like this build is just dead, unfortunately, for this guy. Like, this build had so much going for it, too. Like, if you just take, like, Bateman or something with that pick and you don't take Waller, if he just takes Bateman here, this fucking thing's off to the races. What a build. Lamar, both stack pieces, but I think using a pick on a second tight end and just having 0 wide receivers through 5 rounds is deep trouble. So anyways, looks like at quarterback, I might be into some Trey Lance with this build since we missed on Herbert. That's who I was hoping for, obviously, when I took Mike Williams, but I usually don't get him. Herbert's like incredibly difficult to get. So yeah, so 0 RB, I draft 6 or 7 running backs. But for me, 0 RB this year, I'm only using as like 5 to 10% of my teams, whereas previous years it's been up to 25% of my teams. Maybe even I used it a ton like last year. So, but yeah, so 0 RB 6 to 7 running backs, hero RB 5 to 6, dual is pretty much always 5 for me, and hyper fragile is 4 running backs for me. I do not go with the 3 running backs ever in hyper fragile. I think there's too many ways you can lose like an amazing hyper fragile team to just like weird variants where guys miss only like 1 or 2 weeks with concussions or COVID or weird shit like that. And it can like kill one of your possibly like league winning hyper fragile builds if you're going with 3. So I prefer to just go with 4. I don't think having like a 4th guy that's really good is much of a problem. That means you have like 3 running backs that are probably scoring every single week. And, that seems like an amazing problem to have. So I'm in for that problem. Also, you get diminishing returns at like all positions as well. So you can get diminishing returns at other positions, obviously. Antonio Gibson going at 6'2" in this draft. That's very surprising. I've been getting him mid to late round 7 in drafts lately. So it's been pretty sweet. Here I definitely have my eye on Jalen Hurts and Kyler. Okay, Kyler goes. We do still have George Kittle, so it's going to be really hard for us to get Trey Lance if we don't take him with one of our 2 picks. So I want to keep that in mind. So do we want to go with a dual running back build here? I think we do. So I'm gonna take Josh Jacobs here. This is a guy I have like practically no ownership on. Like I think I'm at like 2% Josh Jacobs, but there's definitely a reason why I'm taking him here. Uh, I'll discuss that when I get to my next pick because I don't want to jinx things for us here. Glad Kyler Murray didn't fall to us because I probably would have tried to get Hopkins on the way back, and that would not have worked out. As fast farts has taken Hopkins there. Okay, we're just going to go ahead and take Trey Lance. So the reason why I took Josh Jacobs, and I didn't really want to say it, was because I was hoping that Trey Lance would make it back to us. Now we have a game stack set up for week 17 with Trey Lance and Kittle and Josh Jacobs on the other side of the game. And I really don't have hardly any of that particular version of that game stack because I have so little Josh Jacobs. Like I have a ton of Lance and Kittle with Adams, and basically like almost every other construction is except for Josh Jacobs constructions I have for that week 17 game stack. So as far as other week 17 stuff, we could look for indie guys to be comebacks with Saquon, Green Bay guys, Rams. Don't think there'll be any Baltimore people we're really interested in, so we'll probably just have to let that go as far as Deontay is concerned. Let's take a look at the board here. So it started off Taylor McCaffrey. You can pop that out, right? So start off Taylor McCaffrey, Cooper Kupp, Jefferson, Najee. It's a little high for Najee for me. Wow, Jamar Chase went pick 11. That's insane. I didn't even notice that when I was going. That guy started off with Chase and DeAndre Swift. I really like that team in spot 11. I think like his major mistake for me was taking Antonio Gibson, actually, who he might have even been able to get this next pick if he wanted to. Like I would have just taken Joe Burrow here and had the Burrow Chase combo. So I think that was a pretty big mistake for that guy there. So far from our spots, I'm not one to shy to point out my own mistakes when I'm doing drafts. I do it all the time in my videos, but so far in this one, I would say there's not really anything I would change or feel like mistakes that I have made yet. So there's nothing we really in particular like need with this pick. Our team is like very balanced, so we can pretty much just take best player available or whatever we think will help us the most. We could go with a hyper fragile build if we take Damian Harris. I know I mostly say hyper fragile is like, 3 people from Sanders and up, but I consider Damian Harris and Devin Singletary are guys I will like occasionally build and make a hyper fragile with those guys as well. So it's either Damian Harris or Burks or Olave. Do I have anything to go with Burks or Olave? I don't really. Let's try this. I'm going to try and build a hyper fragile with Damian Harris as my third. So we're only going to draft 4 running backs on this team. So we should end up getting a lot of wide receivers, which is nice. This could be like a 10 wide receiver team if we really want it to be. It's like we're only really required to take 2 quarterbacks and 2 tight ends since we got, Lance and Kittle. I'd be looking at Olave or kind of Chase Claypool, Garrett Wilson. I don't think I'm going to take Chase Claypool here because I have Deontay. I don't particularly want to make that big bet on the Steelers. So I think I'm just going to take Olave or Garrett Wilson. I'm pretty fine with either one of them, Do I have any real reason to pick one over the other? Uh, if we pick Olave, there's really not many Eagles that we'll want to come back with, so I'm just going to go down here and take Garrett Wilson. 12 picks above ADP is what it is. It was, obviously no chance he was coming back to us. And I like Garrett Wilson as much as Olave or Chase Claypool. So to me, they're in the same tier. I worry about like tiers more than I worry about, the actual like ADP reaches. 12 is kind of annoying to be making that pick, but I'd rather like take Garrett Wilson and set up like for a Noah Fant later because he's one of my favorite value picks than have taken Olave. And I guess the only person I'd really be looking at later if I had taken Olave as a comeback would be like Kenny Gainwell. And I didn't have anyone already on the team that went with either one of them. So we're only going to take one more running back on this team. So this is going to be like a little bit of a modified hyperfragile where we are going to just go with the big three being these three guys and then one more. So another thing I want to talk about other than the roster constructions and how it's a little rough to deal with them. I mean, so like there's still people that call, hyper fragile, robust RB. Like to me, robust RB is when you're drafting like 3 or 4 running backs in the first 6 rounds and you still take like 6 of them, which like they don't even account for with the spike week stuff anymore because I mean, it's a bad strategy. So you don't really want to know how much of it you're doing. And basically all of us that are in the spike week thing aren't doing that. But I mean, there's still a bazillion people out there doing that. So it needs to kind of have a name for it, right? Like just because we don't do it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It's still out there. So to me, that's a robust RB. And hyperfragile is its own separate thing that is not defined as a robust RB to me. Pretty interesting team we got going. I am going to kind of put Noah Fant in the back of my head as a possible guy. I can wait like super late on RB4 and maybe grab like Sony. Sony and Damian Harris will be on opposite sides of this New England Miami game week 17. If I feel like there's some like great value on a different running back, like a lot of the times my 4th running back in these hyper fragiles was Alex Madison, just because I think that like ceiling is insane. I like Rojo a lot as a 4th running back in the hyper fragiles because similarly I think his ceiling is like really good. So kind of just depend on like what we're looking at as far as anyone interesting. Could take Kirk Cousins to go with Justin Jefferson if he's there when we pick. That'd be a very strong correlation and help out Trey Lance there. Don't hate that. Normally don't take a second quarterback quite this high, but with us having Justin Jefferson, that kind of makes me want to do it. Obviously, he still could go before we pick. Definitely going to have to pick a wide receiver with our next pick if we take Coach Cousins here. There goes Rojo. Take Cousins. Now we're just going to lock into wide receiver. Actually, like Galladay and Dotson are my 2 favorites on the board right now. I like Dotson's ceiling. Devontae Parker is like not too terrible either. I like his ceiling as well. We could make a bet on Parker to go with our bet on Damian Harris, just kind of a bet on New England offense being better than people think it's going to be. Same with Galladay. We could, we have Saquon, so we're making an overall bet on the Giants offense. Don't mind Jacoby Myers. I like Dotson quite a bit. So when I've been building late QB teams, meaning not taking a QB until quite a ways, I don't really like any of these people at the top. Go with Dotson. So when I'm building late QB teams lately, where I'm not drafting like any of the elite quarterbacks, right now I'm just smashing Deshaun Watson and like hoping that suspension ends up being 6 to 8 games. It's sounding like it might be less than what we initially thought about the whole year. So like I was heavy fading Deshaun Watson for the longest time because I was in the camp of thinking it was going to be the whole year. So like it doesn't really matter if this information is wrong. Like some people seem like really concerned about like, oh my God, what if this information is wrong and like the suspension isn't going to be shorter? Like I don't think that's something you should be that worried about. Like it's just not that big a deal. Like you can just draft more teams if you want to get your ownership percentage down. Getting ownership percentage down is the easiest thing in the whole world. You just draft more teams. Poof. Ownership percentage is down. So if Watson does get the whole year and you're like, crap, I don't want to have 10% Watson or something or 8% Watson. I want to be below the field. You can just draft more teams. It's not that big a deal. Like the mistake to me is not recognizing that if he does get 6 or 8 games, he can be like a league winner at what his current price is. It's like absurdly low right now, right? Like he's going as QB 28. If he gets 6 games, this is just going to be absurd. I don't think he's going to get that a little bit, but I recognize we don't know what the hell is going to happen. So you just got to play like for the upside, and then if you get a little bit too much Watson, then just fade him the rest of the way through while you're doing the rest of your drafts. And you will lower your percentage. The thing you can't do is you can't retroactively go back and get him at the QB 28 price if he's not suspended as long as we thought he would be. Nothing that interests me like that much at running back. Probably wait longer on those. One running back I'm trying to take in the puppy 2 right now is Snoop Connor. I don't have any interest in taking on Basketball Mania 3 for the time being because I do think there's a chance that like either James Robinson isn't as far along as we're been led to believe he is, or that he has some sort of a setback, and then Connor ends up the handcuff to Travis Etienne. The problem in Best Ball Mania 3 is then he's just going to be drafted every draft, so you really didn't gain anything, right? Well, this puppy draft is going to fill rather quickly, so you do actually like gain a lot since that contest will close by getting him at a cheaper price. So we've gotten a little bit of value at running back, but we've definitely given it back at wide receiver, but that's more just like because of my personal rankings and having these guys tiered above. I have them a tier above basically where like most people do. So pretty happy to get Parker here. I was considering him with our last pick. Could take like Van Jefferson as. I think I'm going to pick someone lower again. Could try to play the ADP game with one of these guys. I've got somebody locked in I would like to pick with my next pick here. But we'll see if that's available to us. See, I'm really liking getting these like late Watson stacks, especially when you consider like Gibson's a guy I was fading like very, very hard when he was around 4 or 5, even 6. Now that like Gibson's finally into round 7 and he's going with different tier levels of players, he's no longer like competing with any of the elite quarterbacks or any of that sort of stuff. I'll take Robert Tonyan here. I have Jefferson and Cousins. So I kind of want Tonyan coming back in that game, which means we probably won't take Noah Fant, but that's fine. So anyway, apologize again. So with Gibson now going into like mid to late round 7, it really helps you set up these Watson stacks that I'm trying to get, because Watson's like going forever late, right? So like it gives you the running back, the starting running back on the other side of the game, and then you can get like Amari Cooper pretty late. Not that late, but like later than what his ADP obviously would be if Watson was on a short suspension. And even like if you miss Cooper, you can go with like David Bell and Donovan Peoples-Jones and Joku, all these guys that you can pair late with Watson. So for the time being, while the prices are what they are, that's something I'm looking to do like a lot. So normally Josh Jacobs is a guy I like would almost never have taken, but just a chance to get him in what I was hoping for with this game stack. I was sending, Trey Lance to the turn, obviously, so he could have gotten taken and I could have gotten hosed, but that did not end up happening. So pretty nice to have a rare Josh Jacobs, at least in a build where it makes sense for him. I'm not really sure. I think we're just going to end up with like a luxury pick in this draft, where we might just like look at what's available in round 18 and pick whatever we think the best thing is. Like I'd be really loath to take a quarterback. Like I think quarterback we're like just done. But like we really only need one more running back. But the problem is we're going to be so deep at wide receiver. Like we have Jefferson, Williams, Deontay. Like I feel like this is a really good start where like I don't see there overwhelmingly being a need for us to go to like 10 wide receivers. That seems excessive. But kind of depends on the players available. Certainly a player I'm hoping does not get picked here. That sucked. Just going to go for the wide receiver with the most upside then. So now I'm really glad I didn't take Chase Claypool with Deontay Johnson, because I think at that point in the draft, George Pickens just has like a way more upside than the other people on the board. So he's like not much of a choice there for me. I have him tier above all these people that are on the board. I really wanted Alec Pierce because he was a comeback for Saquon in that game. Michael Carter or Gainwell interests me if one of those two is there when we pick. Gainwell down. If Michael Carter goes, yeah, I kind of thought that would happen. Might just go with like Evan Ingram. Kittle does miss a lot of time. This would kind of be our luxury pick getting spent now. Do I hate that? Yeah. I'm just going to spend my luxury pick now and take Evan Ingram. Just another spot where I'm just taking the person I think has the most upside on the board. I don't really despise 3 tight ends with Kittle. I normally do too. If we're not going to have what I thought was going to be a luxury pick available to us, then I wouldn't have made that pick. But I think we were going to get to a point where basically we would have the 4 running backs I kind of wanted to go with and 9 wide receivers. And I would kind of just be looking for somebody with upside at whatever position happened to be, whatever the best upside guy was. So I kind of just took that a little bit early because I didn't like anything on the board except for Evan Ingram. So pretty interesting little tight end group there. We'll be hoping to get Sony Michel with my next pick. Certainly a chance that we don't get him. If we don't get Sony Michel, then that'll be a little tough, but could maybe go with like an Eno or something like that. I wonder if this is actually Graham Barfield. Phantom Hooper. Let's pop out this again. It's been a while since we looked at that. This Jamar Chase was wild pick. So that guy went up with like Fields and Matt Ryan. Yeah. I feel like this guy definitely like punted off his team when it was an amazing position. And so we got Chase at 11, got to pair him with Swift, which is like rare. Got Keenan Allen to fall, which is also rare. Cortland Sutton's like whatever pick. Decent value on Bateman. This pick just should have been Joe Burrow. And this team would have been bonkers, but Steady ended up with Fields with like no stack pieces and Matt Ryan, who has the same bye week as Fields with like no stack pieces. Like, I definitely am not like a crazy person about the bye weeks where I'm like, you can't ever take two QBs at the same bye week, but you can't be taking like Matt Ryan when you have another QB with that bye week. You have to be doing it with like guys that actually have upside and are worth it. Like taking a 0 to like have Matt Ryan, this doesn't make any sense. Of course, this guy will probably just take 3 quarterbacks, but to make that a non-issue, he would have had Hayden Hurst as well to go with his Burrow stack if he had picked Burrow there. So I'm definitely not taking any more quarterbacks or tight ends. So we can just click those babies off. Some pretty cool wide receivers on the board. Just kind of want to poke my nose into what I've got for bye weeks going on. Nothing where I need to like overwhelmingly avoid anyone. I think if Sony Michel goes before our pick, I might just take Mostert just to, even though I much prefer Sony Michel, just to kind of hedge my bet because I'm going to have like 40% Sony Michel, so wouldn't mind taking a Mostert here or there when Michel is not an option. Okay. I don't even think this has to be a 9 wide receiver team. It's pretty strong a wide receiver. So we still could end up with a luxury pick if we really want it. Definitely going to pick a wide receiver here right now because there's like at least 3 players I like. So we could do Wandell to go with Barkley as part of that. We could go with David Bell or John Mechie. Kind of like Mechie is like a comeback for Evan Ingram. There's some correlation there. We've got Bell who correlates with Dotson. So probably take one of Wandell, Bell, or Mechie. Mechie is my most owned wide receiver at the moment, so I would maybe lean to go with one of the guys that isn't Mechie. They give us 3 by week 9 wide receivers, that's fine. Yeah, let's go with David Bell just because I have way more Mechie and we get this Bell Dotson correlation. So I definitely think that right now all our positions are strong enough to just stop where we are. So we're definitely not taking another quarterback or another tight end. We could consider a 5th running back if something like exceptional were to fall to us. So let's just kind of keep an eye out for like maybe different values we wouldn't mind in the last round. love to get Mechie, but I doubt he's there. Wouldn't mind Isaiah McKenzie. Will Fuller, obviously. Maybe even could be an Odell team. As far as running backs, we have other guys on these two teams. I wouldn't want them, but Hassan Haskins or Eno would interest me. Dearness interests me a little. See it like Watson's going in like late round 17, it's so gross. So at least this guy like kind of bailed himself out at quarterback by taking Watson. So like if things break right for him with Watson, then like one, it doesn't matter that these two guys have the same bye week, and at least Fields has like upside during these weeks. Like to me, I would just rather see this team just be like Fields and Watson. But I don't know, it's not too bad. It's pretty late on wide receivers. Oh, he also won 3 tight ends. Ugh. It's only going to end up with 7 wide receivers. I don't like that. I don't mean to be picking on this one person. I just like thought that their team was interesting and kind of started with the noticing them taking Gibson really early. That's kind of what piqued my interest into what they were doing. So right now I'm looking at like McKenzie, Mechie, Odell. Some interest in Hassan Haskins as running back. I don't think Odell is going to play until very late in the season, but like I said, this is pretty much a total luxury pick for us. So really like the way this team has turned out. So I like these 3. I like Hassan Haskins. I like Eno Benjamin. I'm just going to take Mechie. Pretty happy to get him in the last round. Got 5 rookie wide receivers on this team. That really doesn't bother me. Pretty interesting squad. So I'm obviously very comfortable with Lance and Cousins. Barkley, Jacobs, Harris, Sonny Michel. Definitely like danger-esque here at running back, but we're playing like the hyper fragile, hitting the nuts game. So we're like basically playing this team as if like this works perfectly, and how do we win $2 million if this works out perfectly? And the way you do that is strong at QB, very strong at wide receiver. Although we do have a lot of rookies, but I don't know. That doesn't really bother me much. We have Justin Jefferson, Mike Williams, Deontay, at the top of the pack. We've got Parker. So I'm cool with having the 5 rookies. And then tight end, I mean, pretty much A+ week to week upside with that grouping. I am usually just fine with Kittle and just one other tight end. I have drafted some 3 tight end Kittle builds. I mean, Kittle misses it seems like 3 games every year, so it's not the worst to have a 3 tight end Kittle build, but I definitely prefer 2 tight ends. I would say probably 85% of my Kittle builds are 2 tight ends and 15% are 3. But I just felt like when we hit that Evan Ingram pick, that just wasn't really anything interesting on the board for me other than him. So very, very happy with this team. Glad to be back recording. So I hope you guys enjoyed this one. And good luck in your drafts. Have a good one, folks.